garlic scape, escape, aeoli. Olive oil and garlic, yummy. You know, sometimes when we pull the hardcore center out, not only do we get these tasty scapes for cooking, the later scapes are good as some of the best. Right here, when these heads mature, they're some of the best insecticide. But we want them when they're fresh for eating. So after they've curled around and this starts to swell, puree them for an insecticide. But when we can get them nice and fresh and tender, and it gets the whole bottom out of there, and these things are super, super fleshy, this stuff makes great aeoli. Right, but once they mature a little more, it ends up having the highest concentration of the olein, I think it is, right? And so these are still, this is still in tender mode right here, as it's starting to, it hasn't started to swell yet. Whoa, Rudy, come back, come back, come back. All right, so once that starts swelling up, that's the flower head. And you have to, if you actually want to do breeding instead of selection of clones, we need to go in and let those, but here again, so that curls around and stiffens up, and by that point they're not so good for the puree and all these tender shoots. They're very different. So most people, though, they start when they're curling, and is when they notice them, right? And here it's already stiffening up and breaks off at the top. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that, and they're still great for saute. Okay, but if we can get that juicy tender, the other thing that happens, if you can get that juicy tender out all the way, it never stiffens up, and you have a soft neck that you can braid eventually for storage. So I've got a pretty good, I was counting somewhere between 700 and 1,000 head of garlic this year, and I've been having a hard time figuring out exactly. Down in this corner here is just going off, and I did have some mulching in here, and the birds tore it up, and I'm like, did the birds feed more nitrogen as they scratched the area, or was it the mulch itself holding moisture? I was watching the garlic grow and looking at the amount of growth that was actually occurring, and what I was really seeing was down over yonder is just a lot less growth, and there was less mulching. You know, mulch, this, you can see it ended about here, but then over here there was no mulch, and the chickens ate the tops off of these all the way to the ground, full nubbins. And you can see this section here is just as healthy. Once I got the chickens out of it, it regrew. And I'm looking over here, and what I started to realize, there's the key factors are different varieties, timing of planting by a couple of weeks. This stuff was planted later, and it would have been the smallest variety that I have. And then, because it would have been last, and I always plant the biggest stuff first. So this would have been smaller cloves, but it's where they were scratching and feeding more than the mulch. The mulch drew them into the scratching and feeding, but again, right here there was no mulch, but they were constantly eating. I was chasing them out. They ate the tops all the way down to the ground, and I thought I wasn't going to get any growth, but there's enough nitrogen that they dropped. Right? So what does that tell us? A lot, especially when we see how my soil is pure sand, right? And nitrogen moves through it like water with rain or whatnot. Okay, so again, so we're harvesting the scapes as soon as we can, because two things. One, we like the tender, soft tender, right? And the next thing is we can make an aeoli out of that and these tender scapes, but it also leaves us a soft top, right, that we can braid later on if we want to. So braiding stiff necks isn't normally a thing. And then the last aspect is all that energy that would have gone to that stiff tube and flowering point goes into the reproduction of the bulb. Here we have a nice from seed onion set going. All of the carrots I put in from seed were eaten by these 2 rows. Were going full on in between full carrot, and there's nothing because the little micro bugs come in and eat it all. Little shredders, and they don't eat everything, but they eat those. I think they come in and eat a little bit of the onion. They got so much of it going. There's Blackbeard. This guy's gonna try and fly over. They want to go hit the, where is he? There he is. He flew over yesterday, and I gave him a wet hose. He gave up. But I got a meat bird over here. That's Wilbur, and they like tapping Wilbur. So let's just chase him out. Anyhow, let's see. That's some refining. There we go. Well, it's all about garlic, not the chicken. So I can't work with the phone in my hand. I got quite a bit of this to do. Appreciate you stopping in and saying hi. Go out in the world and make it a better place with the meat suit you was given to do it in. Peace out. There we go. And if you ain't got garlic, you ain't cooking. By the way, these are all specialty. I've been selecting for 20 years. There's only 4 cloves per head. So it ain't something everyone wants to grow because you don't have a massive reproduction. You have to use like half of your stock to reproduce it. But excellent for gourmet baked garlic spreads where you only have 4 cloves for the client, the diner to deal with instead of 8 or 12. Peace out.